What's up, everybody? Carlisa here, and I'm back at you guys, of course, with another video all about that military lifestyle. For those of you that are stopping by for a second, third, fourth time, welcome. Thank you so much for supporting my new channel. For those of you that are new here, I spent 9 years in the Army and have been in the Air Force since 2012, so I've got 17 years of total service time, and this channel is all about educating people about the military so that they don't make the mistakes that I made. And so any advice I can give to help people make decisions that are good for them, hey, I'm happy to do that. And because I switched from the Army to the Air Force, I get a lot of questions about the differences between the two. And I understand that most people don't serve in more than one branch. And as with most things in life, you have to experience them to have a full and complete understanding. With that said, I know I'm in a unique position to talk to people about the differences between the Air Force and the Army. So I'm here to do that today. Guys, we're going to talk about the differences in the mission between the two. We're going to talk about the differences in benefits, if any. We're going to talk about the differences in culture and training. So make sure you stick around because I'm going to get into all of that stuff. And as always, if you have questions, make sure you drop a comment below. I'm happy to answer questions. And if you have any special requests, if you have a topic in mind you'd like me to do a video on, let me know because I am happy to do that video for you guys. Because again, I'm here for you guys to give you guys information I think will be helpful to you along that military journey. And you might not be in the military. It might be that you have a son, a daughter, a husband, or whatnot, and you just want to learn about it. So if that's the case, hey, I'm glad you're here. All right, guys, let's talk about missions because the mission is going to influence the training, the culture, and to a certain extent, even the benefits. So let's talk the Army. The Army conducts long-term ground forces operations. The Air Force, on the other hand, conducts air and space operations. Now you can imagine how these different missions change the training required. So if you're in a branch of service that conducts long-term ground forces operations, that's right, you can expect to be doing patrolling exercises, you can expect to be doing long road marches, you can expect to be spending more time at the firing range, you can expect to spend more time in the gas chamber, and they also do things called sticks lanes, which are situational training exercises, and these are scenarios where you will react to contact, knock out a bunker and whatnot. So if that's the kind of stuff that really, gets that engine cranked up, then the Army might be a better branch for you to join. On the other hand, if ground pounding doesn't sound that interesting to you, you might want to give the Air Force a close look. In the Air Force, you don't do nearly as much road marching, you don't do situational training like how to react to contact, how to knock out a bunker. And I'll be honest, I've been in the Air Force since 2012 and I haven't gone to the gas chamber a single time with the Air Force, although let me tell you a quick story. When I first came into the Air Force, I learned that we were going to do CBRNE training. Of course, the C stands for chemical in CBRNE, so naturally I assumed we would be going to the gas chamber because I'd been to the gas chamber 4 times in the Army. And I remember asking one of the airmen when we would be going to the gas chamber to remove our masks and suck in some CS gas, and he was like, "Why would you go into the gas chamber and remove your mask? That's just stupid." Now, his statement is reflective of the Air Force as a whole, right? Again, the branches have two completely different cultures. They have different training requirements because they have different missions, okay? Now, no one in the Army would think that going into the gas chamber and removing your mask is a stupid idea. Because in the Army, of course, when you go into the gas chamber, that whole exercise is designed to get you to trust your equipment. And it's also designed to prepare you for situations wherein everything goes wrong, and the Army wants you to be able to maintain a sense of calmness in those situations. So anyway, that's just kind of a funny story for you guys, and it certainly was a culture shock for me when I switched from the Army to the Air Force. Because the cultures are so very different. And let me get into talking about culture, because I know a lot of you guys have questions not only about training but also about culture. Culture. Okay, let me break it down like this because I think that this is a perfect illustration of the culture changes, I should say cultural differences between the two branches. So a slogan in the Army is soldier first. On the other hand, a slogan in the Air Force is people first, mission always. You see the difference there? Soldier first is how the Army comes at this. People first is how the Air Force comes at this. So the Air Force tends to be more people focused, and the Air Force is smaller than the Army. Guess what? The Air Force doesn't need people the way the Army needs people, which is one reason why the standards for entry are higher in the Air Force than they are for the Army. Okay, but with that said, the Air Force really appreciates the small number of people it does have. Whereas in the Army, sometimes you can get lost in the bloated bureaucracy. Sometimes it's easy to feel like you're just a number because there are so many people in the Army. In any event, one of the best, illustrations of culture is just to look at the mottos. Again, Army, soldier first. So no matter what your specialty is, you are a soldier. You're a rough and tumble soldier, all right? You're a lean, mean fighting machine. You are an instrument of death, okay? Maybe not so much an instrument of death, but you guys get the picture. And no matter what your specialty is, you are a soldier, so you will be trained as a soldier. And in the Army, basically this means infantryman. So it don't matter if you're a judge advocate in the Army, you're a soldier. It doesn't matter if you're a finance officer in the Army, you're a soldier. It doesn't matter if you're an intel analyst, no, you're a soldier. So you are going to be, as I said earlier, patrolling, doing sticks lanes, going to the firing range, going to, the gas chamber, because the Army's preparing you to conduct long-term ground forces operations. And the Army wants all of its people to be infantrymen. Now, in the Air Force, the only people going through this kind of training are those in security forces. And one of the things I noticed when I came into the Army is that basically Air Force security forces are the most like the Army because they're the ones packing the M16s and or M9s. They're the ones wearing flak vests and making sure they're up on their marksmanship, and all of the marksmanship, skills, all of that. Yeah, I haven't been to the gas chamber a single time. I've been in the Air Force. Now remember, I didn't do basic in the Air Force. So, everyone's going to go to the gas chamber, at least at basic, and you will fire a weapon there. But I'm talking about post-basic. In the Army, you're going to continue doing things like gas chamber, firing range, patrolling, sticks lanes. And in the Air Force, the focus is more on your specialty. So, as a judge advocate in the Army, I didn't really feel like a judge advocate as much as I felt like an infantryman. In the Air Force, I feel like a judge advocate. And this is true across all AFSCs. The Air Force focuses more on training you in your specialty. The Army focuses more on training you because everyone's a soldier, everyone's an infantryman. Now, that's not to say that you don't get any training in your specialty in the Army, because you certainly do. But having served in both branches, I can tell you, you're going to receive more training in your specialty in the Air Force than in the Army. Okay? And while we're talking about specialties, let me say this. Your specialty has a lot to do with whether you enjoy your time in the service. So don't just get caught up in looking at the branch as a whole. Also make sure you're going into a specialty that you genuinely feel you will enjoy, because that's, going to be 4, 6, 8 years of your life. So you owe it to yourself to do the research. You owe it to yourself to talk to people that are in the service, have been in the service. You owe it to yourself to watch YouTube videos, to, read blogs online. So go ahead and do that. But have a list of jobs that you think you would enjoy in the Army, and have a list of jobs that you think you would enjoy in the Air Force, and really do some in-depth research on those specialties. So that's another just piece of advice for you guys. Don't just get caught up in the branch. Also make sure you're looking at the specialties. And it might be that the job you want is offered in the Army and it's not offered in the Air Force. And that makes your decision a little bit easier, doesn't it? And on that note, I'm not here to tell anyone what to do. I'm just here to give you guys the information so that you can decide what you think you should do. Because at the end of the day, no one can tell you, join the Army over the Air Force. No one can tell you, join the Air Force over the Army. You have to search yourself and sit with yourself and decide what your preferences are, what your likes and dislikes are. And only then are you going to be able to come up with a decision that you're comfortable with, and I hope it's a decision that you're happy with. I'm happy I switched from the Army to the Air Force. I really enjoy the Air Force. I love the Air Force's people first approach. I love that because the Air Force is a smaller branch, it is more people focused, and I see the Air Force working in ways to make its people happy. And I didn't see that as much in the Army. Now, of course, the military's needs will always come first, though the Air Force does tend to take its people into consideration more, is really, I think, a good way to explain it. And hey, if you guys really like the physically demanding activities, the Army might be a better choice for you. And if you think that the mission of the Army excites you more than the mission of the Air Force, the Army might be for you. And I will say this, because the Army needs people more than the Air Force, I mentioned this earlier, but because of this need, the Army does tend to give more bonuses, and they tend to give bigger bonuses. So, of course, that's another consideration. Now, I want to talk benefits with you guys, because I know a lot of people are confused as to whether all the branches tend to offer the same benefits or if one branch has better benefits than the other. So, let's get into benefits quickly. Benefits. All right, guys. So, generally, every branch offers the same benefits. So every branch is going to offer BAH, that's your basic allowance for housing. Every branch is going to offer BAS, that's your basic allowance for subsistence. Every branch offers tuition assistance. Every branch offers the GI Bill and the post 9/11 GI Bill. So generally the benefits are the same across the branches, but you do have to do your research because sometimes the amounts change. So I did a video just recently on tuition assistance and the GI Bill. By the way, if you missed that video and you're interested in using money from the military to go to school, click this link right up here because I talk all about the benefits available to you. And there are some really nice benefits that'll help you along in your education. So make sure you check that video out, guys. And One of the things I wanted to say is the benefits can vary, but they are generally the same. So for instance, the Navy recently announced that tuition assistance for the fiscal year is going down to $3,000. Now in the Air Force, it's a little bit higher than that, but it's not even a difference of $1,000 per fiscal year. So, there aren't huge differences, but there are some differences here and there when it comes to benefits. So make sure, you're doing your research, but just to answer the question, generally the benefits are the same across all branches. So you don't have to worry that you're missing out on some significant benefit by choosing, one branch over another. Last thing I'm going to go over with you guys quickly, time away from the family. In the Army, deployments typically last 15 months. Now, you might get a shorter deployment, you might get a longer deployment. I'm just giving you the average. So the average deployment is about 15 months long. In the Air Force, a deployment will typically last 4 to 6 months. So clearly there's a significant difference in deployment lengths. So that's another point that I wanted to stress to you guys today, in case you're concerned about the, time, away from the family. So again, Army deployments, 12 to 15 months, Air Force deployments, 4 to 6 months. And then when it comes to training for your specialty, that really just depends on the specialty. As a 35 Delta in the Army, I had to spend about 5 months at Fort Huachuca becoming a military intelligence officer. However, when I switched to being a 27 Alpha and was a judge advocate for the Army, that training was about 3.5 months. And generally the Air Force training is shorter. So if you take an Air Force specialty that's very similar to an Army specialty, generally the Air Force training will be shorter. But there are just several differences in training lengths. So really, when it comes to that, you're going to have to look at your the specialty. The MOS if you're going Army, or the AFSC if you're going Air Force. And so just look your specialty up, and you'll be able to find information online about whether the training's 3 months long, or 2 months long, or 6 months long. And that's really the information that I can think of that I should share with you guys. If you have any questions, make sure you drop a comment. Make sure you like and subscribe. Thank you guys again so much for supporting my new channel here on YouTube. And I will be back next week. That's right, with a brand new video all about that military lifestyle. Hope everyone is happy and healthy, and I will see you guys next time.